guys, welcome to Refocus Live again tonight. We have been here every night this week at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to be here Thursday night and Friday night yet at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we are talking about refocusing our life, getting our life back in order and on track, because summer, as much as I hate to admit it, is coming to an end, and we need to focus on other things. So if you've not been here for the first two steps, meaning Monday and Tuesday, feel free, you can stick around. If you don't have a workbook, you can still grab one of those. You can text Refocus Live, no spaces, Refocus Live to 44222 and still get a workbook to download, because I created this workbook so that you guys can fill it out. And I want you to fill it out because it's one thing to listen to someone tell you about something, and it's another thing to really put those things into action. And it's when you put those things into action that things really happen. So of course, that's what we want to do here. So my hope is that you guys are going to fill that workbook out, and by the time we're done on Friday night, if you guys then text me some pictures of your completed workbook, I'm going to put everybody who completed their workbook into a drawing, and I'm going to give away my new digital book/workbook combination to whoever wins that drawing. So steps 1 and 2 were important steps. So they each kind of all build off of each other. So go back and watch those videos after we get done here if you haven't done that, and then today's video will make more sense, okay? But those were two really important things. So I'm going to give you a quick review. The first one, in step 1, we talked about the importance of, well, really, I think this is the most important step, because if you are not kind of doing away with the old before you move forward, you know, it's kind of natural for us to just kind of revert back into old ways. Old habits really do die hard. And so step 1 was really teaching you guys and really helping you figure out how to put away our past failures and do that, and then you're ready to start off on a clean slate. So that's what we talked about in step 1. Step 2, we talked about the importance of self-care, and I told you guys more than once that self-care really is defined, according to me, as those little things, simple things that we can do for ourselves so that we can do for others. So often we are so good at neglecting ourselves, feeling guilty about doing even simple things. I told you guys my simple things every day. Something as simple as putting some makeup on, and if I can't get to makeup, at least some chapstick. Getting dressed into something that makes me feel good about myself. You know, it's an outfit that we actually like. It's it's a good color for us. It doesn't make us feel fat. You know, whatever it is. And so these little things, those are just the examples that I gave you guys. These little things that we can do for ourselves really do make a huge difference. And so I encouraged you to come up with your 3 things, and that's what we talked about in the workbook for last night, step 2. So step 3 is similar to step 2 in that we're kind of staying within the whole self-care thing. And by the way, these things that I'm sharing with you came out of a whole 21-day challenge that tens of thousands of people, and we may even be up to 100,000, I haven't paid attention lately, but there have been tens of thousands of people that I know of that have taken this challenge to kind of transform their lives and really take back control of their lives, because if we're not conscious about it and aware of it, we can just kind of let life overtake us, and we don't generally like that. So that's why we're kind of taking that back. But anyway, so these things that I'm sharing with you today are kind of the hand-picked things out of there that I know that we as busy women and moms tend to struggle with most. And so today for step 3, we're kind of talking about self-care again, but in a little bit of a different way. And so what I want to talk about is exercise, okay? So exercise looks different for everybody, and your reasons for exercising may be different from mine, your motivation, and your reasons for doing that. But of all of the women that I have helped over the years, most of us do enjoy and want to make it a priority to get at least some sort of exercise in every week. It makes us feel better about ourselves. And there's a good reason for that. And so, but again, so often we're so bad at self-care. Those kinds of things that really are important to us just get put on the back burner so often. And we're so busy doing for everybody else that that's one of those things that's easy to push aside. I do it myself too sometimes, and I just don't feel good about myself when I do that. I feel so much better about myself when I'm able to get some exercise in every week. But just like yesterday when I was telling you, when we hear self-care, that little voice in our head starts saying, I don't have time for that. I'm a busy wife. I have a job. I'm a mom. I have these outside volunteer things. I have this, I have that. And so we're so good at just assuming that we don't have time and just giving to everything else. But we can't do that, especially when it comes to exercise. So today for step 3, I want to share with you 3 simple things that you can do to help make exercise more of a part of your life. Now, again, what you do or what exercise means to you doesn't so much matter, because the hard part, I don't know if you've discovered, but in my life, the hard part is making the time and getting the motivation to actually do it. And so these 3 things that I'm going to share with you today are things that are going to help overcome those 2 obstacles, which are really common for us busy women, okay? So the key is, I think one of the reasons also that we fail at this a lot is that we tend to bite off more than we can chew. We tend to say, okay, so we might come from a place of like no exercise at all and having no time for exercise to saying, okay, I want to exercise for, 30 minutes a day. And maybe that's not reality. That might be too big of a piece to chew. You might be biting off more of a piece than you can chew. And so maybe a more gradual start will work better. And so that's why with number 1, I want to say start small. Avoid the desire and feeling like you're supposed to do a certain amount of exercise. And if it's 30 minutes for you, if whatever it is that you're thinking you need to do, really look at that and say, is this a realistic thing for me to do right now? Starting small and maybe working towards that might be a way to more likely make that happen. If you go from, no exercise at all to now having to find 30 minutes 6 days a week, if that's what you decide, that might be a little bit much. And I think we tend to do that. We tend to bite off more than we can chew, especially if we're starting from a place, from ground zero with that. So when it comes to making time for exercise in your life, I want to encourage you to start small. That way you're more likely to complete it. And once you're able to meet the smaller version of maybe what your overall goal is, it's much easier to get to your overall goal. I'm all for creating big goals and taking your goals and really making sure that you're reaching far enough. But at the same time, if you're not getting anything done because you're setting your goals too high, and then you just feel intimidated and overwhelmed by doing anything with them, you're not really accomplishing much at all. And I think exercise is one of those things that is pretty easy for us to feel intimidated about. So that's why I think it's important to start small with that. So that's tip number 1, is to start small. Maybe look at what you think you need to do or want to do with exercise and then scale it back just a little bit and start there. And then add on a little bit more. Make it a little bit bigger bite, after a few days. But start small. And that could mean in terms of time. That could mean in terms of what you want to do. That could mean, start off with only walking 10 minutes a day or doing whatever you're doing for 10 minutes a day. And then after this week, you add 5 or 10 minutes more. Or distance. Maybe instead of walking around your entire neighborhood, which would take you, however long, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to walk around half my neighborhood. So resist the urge to feel as though you need to make it this big, bold exercise goal, and just start off small, because you're much more likely to complete it that way. And that's super encouraging. Once we find out that we can do the small things, like that makes the big things not seem so scary. So that's my suggestion number 1. Step number 2 is to, when it comes to whatever you're going to do for exercise, make it consistent. When things are consistent, it's much easier for us to actually do it. So let's say you say, okay, I'm going to exercise for 20 minutes, 4 days a week. Okay, so choose your days and then choose your times and do your very, very best to guard that time and make it happen at that time. It's much easier for us to do things when we're used to doing it at this particular time. So you might say, okay, I'm gonna walk for 20 minutes from 9:30 to 9:50, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And that's just what you do. And you see the clock turn to 9:25 and you're like, okay, well, I gotta get ready to go because this is what I've made the commitment to doing. I've made the commitment to walking for 20 minutes from 9:30 to 9:50 every day. So that's just, or these particular days, so that's just what I'm gonna do. So I know from personal experience, exercise is much easier when you're consistent on a day and time. It just becomes a regular habit at that point. And, you know, we tend to feel less guilty. When we've decided ahead of time, these are the days, this is the time, we don't have to feel as guilty about taking that time. It's kind of an interesting psychological thing, but consistency matters, and you're going to get a lot further with consistency. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 2 to make exercise happen in your life is to make it consistent. So number 1, start small. Number 2, make it consistent. And then number 3, this is hugely motivational, and that is to create an end goal. Your goal doesn't have to be the same as exercising, whatever my exercise goal is, but creating an end goal. So for instance, you might say in 1 month, I want to be to the point where I can do 45 minutes of nonstop walking or riding my bike or whatever it is. And so you're setting that goal for 1 month from now. And then you could challenge yourself further. Once you've kind of completed that goal, or you're well on your way to completing that goal, then what do you want exercise to look like in your life 3 months from now? And maybe it'll be a more tangible thing. You know, I love that thing where it's like, what is it? Couch to 5K in however many days, I don't know what it is, but creating like that kind of an outcome is a really huge motivation too. A lot of people will say, I want to do a 5K, I want to participate in this particular race, you know, and sometimes it's a, you know, it's a race type situation, and sometimes it's just like a fundraising thing. But so it doesn't necessarily have to be a time or a distance thing or something like that. It can be, I want to participate in this particular event. So that can be another really good end goal, but you'll find that it's much easier for exercise to be a consistent part of your life when you have an end goal that you've set. And as with any goal, I always recommend always putting it in writing, because if you just throw a goal out there in your mind, like that's kind of the first step towards failure. If you are not writing it down, you've given yourself a pretty good excuse to not make it happen. But once it's written in writing somewhere, and theoretically you have to look at wherever you wrote it, you're much more likely to follow that through. So creating an end goal, and I suggest like 1 month from now, 3 months from now, this is what I want to have accomplished. So that's tip number 3 for making exercise happen in your life. So number 1 was start small. Number 2 is to be consistent. Be consistent in days, times, and that sort of thing. And number 3 is to create some sort of end goal. I'm this way. I find that if I don't have, I'm a big racer. I enjoy running races. I do adventure races. I do different stuff. And so if I don't have anything on my calendar, like I'm much more likely to say, you know what, I'm just not gonna go out and run today. I just don't feel like it. I have this to do. I have that to do. I really should be doing this. I really should be doing that. But if I have this concrete end goal in mind, like I can't really say that so easily, because I know that I have to do this thing, and I want to be able to do that thing, and so it just makes it easier. I'm really good at allowing myself to be lazy if I don't have some sort of exercise goal in mind. So it's a super good motivator for us to do to make exercise happen. So exercise, let's look in your workbook really quick. So an important part of self-care, what I need you to take away from today, an important part of self-care is exercise. We feel better about ourselves. We have more energy. We're all super busy, right? We talked about yesterday how so many of us have all of these different plates to keep spinning. How are we going to have enough to do all of that? Well, when exercise is able to be a regular part of your life, it's much easier to do all of that stuff. So that's why it's an important part of your life. It helps you do life better, okay? And so then in the workbook, I got really personal. I created really personal questions for you to answer next, because it's not about what exercise looks like in my life. It's about what it looks like to you. Success to me is not going to be the same as success to you. And so I really encouraged you in the questions for step 3 is to really determine what that means for you and to lay that out for yourself in writing. Because sometimes we just create an objective in our mind, and that's as far as it goes, and we haven't really ever thought through that. Danae said, it is so hard to fit it in. It is, but you'll find that if you are consistent, and that end goal is just huge. I don't know. I think both of those are equally big parts of it for me. But you also have to remember, like I said yesterday, you are worth it. And sometimes that's hard for us to remember because we do so much pouring into other people. And Danae is another large family mom like I am, where we have so many people who need so many things from us that it's so easy for us to say, I just can't do one more thing. I can't do this one thing for myself. But what's so easy to forget is that when we do that for ourselves, we have more to give to other people. But we often don't hear people tell us that we are worth it and that we deserve it. So you deserve it. That's what I say. So in your workbook, I talked about different things that you can do to make this happen. These 3 things that we talked about today. It's really important to start small. It's really important to be consistent. And it's really important to create some type of goal that is attached to that. And then here's the thing though, when you accomplish that goal, you have to set another one, because then you may find yourself like, okay, I completed that. I'm going to back off from that for now. But you don't want to do that. Once you've created this consistency and you've started to accomplish something, like you want to keep that momentum going. So make sure that once you complete that one goal, that you create the next one. And you'll find that each time, the more and more you do this, and that you make this a part of your life, the easier it gets. And so, but those goals are really big, I think, especially in the beginning. So make sure that you fill your workbook out for today, because again, it's geared to be, especially today, really personal to you so that you can really make this. My objective in creating this wasn't just to give myself something else to do. I do have enough to do. But my objective in creating this workbook was so that you can really take away something useful from our time together here this week. And, you know, it's important. We matter. And for us to be able to feel as though we are in control of our life, helping us get these things into focus that we've been talking about so far and that we will talk about tomorrow and on Friday are such huge parts of that. So fill in this workbook, because it'll help make it easier for you, and it'll help you actually complete what we're talking about here all week, because it's a good thing. All right, you guys, so I will see you back here tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we will talk about step 4. So get these things done. All right, you guys, I'll see you tomorrow.